Hi everyone, hope you're all doing okay. Dave here from a very autumnal Leeds. Now for anyone that's listened to this podcast for quite a while now, you'll know that I like to move forwards and backwards in time, speaking to various Chesterfield players from different eras at the club. And we have had some players that have played with us really recently, but today's is about as recent as you can get because we have Jonathan Smith on the podcast. Now, Jonathan spent 3 years with us at Chesterfield from 2018, left in this summer of 2021, just gone. And it was really interesting to have a chat with him about his beginnings of his career at places like Forest Green Rovers and Swindon, where he played against us in the Johnston's Paint Trophy final, and also at Luton, where he's a bit of a cult hero. But obviously that time when he came to Chesterfield was a very troubling one on and off the pitch. We had Martin Allen, who first brought him to the club, and then John Sheridan, John Pemberton, and now James Rowe. So he gave us his thoughts on all of those managers and the time at the club, things about dealing with pressure when you're trying to turn a club around, and being moved from position quite a lot, and yeah, his thoughts on different managers that he had during his time with us. He speaks really well about the game, and is still playing at FC United of Manchester too, whilst doing a teaching qualification. So we wish Jonathan all the best, and it was really interesting having a chat with him. We are at Spy Legends on Twitter and Instagram, and Legends of the Spire on Facebook, so do get in touch. But I hope you all enjoy this latest episode. I found it quite enlightening about the last few years at the club. Here we are with Jonathan Smith.
Legends of the Spire.
To get a little bit of background before we get to Chesterfield, I just wanted to know about your youth career, because you actually started at Morecambe, didn't you? And I saw in an interview that you did where you said you kind of felt like you had to work really hard to get a career in football. It wasn't, you didn't kind
of... It was sort of, from 8 to 16, I was at my hometown called Preston, which I supported. You know, I just loved them. Like yourself, you love your Chesterfield. Preston was my club, and I just loved watching them as a kid, and got the season ticket holder, ball boy. I just did everything. I just loved it. I didn't miss a game, and you know, my dream would have been to play for Preston. I got to 16, and I think at the time they were sort of, everyone was looking. I think it was because of what Chelsea was doing under Mourinho. It was sort of buying the big powerful players. And at the time I wasn't the biggest. And I think at Preston at that point, it was sort of, if you're a big lad, I could make him into something. At the time I wasn't the biggest. I was getting pushed around a little bit, and it was probably the right decision. As much as it hurt me at the time, it was probably right. I probably wasn't quite ready to get that contract. So then it was sort of, where do I go from here? And then I got in touch with Morecambe FC, who I knew had a really good academy. They got in touch with me, actually, invited me to come down and do some training, which I did straight away. Really enjoyed it. Straight away, just felt like they wanted me there. Was at Preston, I just sort of didn't feel wanted, to be honest. Just felt like I was there, and it was never going to go on to anything really. Was at Morecambe, straight away just felt wanted. A manager called Jim Harvey was the first team manager, and straight away, even though I was at the college playing for the U team, straight away he was saying good things to me, that he wanted me in training with the first team, and yeah, he just went really well from the off go really.
Were you which position were you in? Because obviously we're at Chesterfield. You've played all over the shop, but where were you always?
Yeah, I was a midfielder, and it was interesting because we had a really good U team. We were for Morecambe FC. We had such a good, strong U team, and I think 6 or 7 lads got offered contracts out of that team. And then on the day we were due to all sign them, 5 of those players out of the 7 got told those contracts aren't there anymore due to budgets, blah, blah, blah. And he signed a player called Scott Davis, who's a goalkeeper. He's still at Tranmere now, and myself. And he sort of explained the reasons for him signing Scott, because he wanted a young goalkeeper, to be an understudy. And then he just said, and I'm going to offer Jonathan a contract, a professional contract. And he didn't explain why. I knew he liked me, but it was sort of, there were lads in that team that scored sort of 50 goals in the season, and so it was a bit of a I mean, it caused a bit of uproar at the time with the other parents, but for me, it was good. I got the opportunity, and straight away, he just had me involved with some, very experienced players, who played, lots of games, and just put into a first team environment. From 16, all of a sudden, 17, 18, I was in this environment that, I was, being given the opportunity, and yeah, they saw me as a central midfielder there, which is, I'd say is my strongest position, what I played in most throughout my career.
Yeah, definitely. And then you ended up eventually via a couple of loan spells. I think you ended up at Forest Green, didn't you? Where you played kind of over 100 games, didn't you, for Forest Green?
Yeah, that was the place that sort of made my name for myself. It was an interesting one because the manager Jim Harvey, who was at Morecambe, he had a heart attack before one of the games, and I was on the verge of getting in the first team at Morecambe at the time. So it was a bit of a blow to me that he was told that by doctors he needed to take time off. I think it was the stress of the job really, and they tested his heart and they said, "Look, you need time off." Sammy McRoy came in. It was obviously a big name in football. Jim Harvey had to sort of take a bit of time off, and he was supposed to be coming back, but Jim Harvey never came back. Sammy McRoy ended up getting the club promoted, and although he offered me a new contract the year after, I just weren't. I was getting sent out on loan, to your clubs like your Fleetwoods and your Bomber Bridges, which was great experience for me at the time, but it was sort of, I wasn't as close to the first team as I was under Jim Harvey. But I got offered a new contract. I was going to sign it, and then Jim Harvey rang me out of the blue, said, "Look, I'm not coming back to Morecambe. I'm getting the job at Forest Green Rovers." My first thought was, where is Forest Green? I was obviously 19, 20-year-old, never really heard of it, I'll be honest. I'd heard of them, but I didn't know where it was. But straight away, I wanted to go. I just thought, if I go with him, there's a good chance I'm going to get games. And he told me that on the phone. I mean, it wasn't even big money what he was offering me. To be honest, whatever he'd have offered me at that point, I would have accepted, because I just knew that was my opportunity, and probably the best thing I ever did, to be honest. Moved away from home, lived in shared accommodation and shared houses, and just sleeping wherever I could really, but getting an opportunity to play in the National League every week at the conference it was at the time, and I was just making a name for myself. I was just sort of, really wanting to prove myself. And, Jim Harvey, I owe him a lot for him giving me that opportunity, because at the time I was no one, I'd played no games apart from a couple of loan spells. So I owe a lot to him for taking me down there and giving me that chance.
Yeah, and I think probably Dale Vince probably came in right at the end of your time there, didn't he? But I just wondered what your thoughts were, because they've obviously had like a really big rise, and the whole wooden stadium looks really
interesting. When I was there wasn't much money at the club. It was they were sort of collecting outside the ground for donations. It was just, but there was always that thing in the background that people would say, "Don't worry, Forest Green will never struggle," because it's such a rich area, affluent area, that there's people in the background here that are ready to invest big money in this club. But I think at the time for me, it was good to be at a club that didn't probably have the budgets, because it gave me a chance to play. I think if I'd have gone when maybe Dale Vince was there, then it might have been a more tricky to get that opportunity. But because there wasn't the budget, I was in there, I was playing, and it got me, like you say, 100 games behind me. I was captain on numerous occasions, good cup runs, and I think obviously now it's totally different. Because even my dad actually invested a little bit of money to help them. He's got a couple of shares in Forest Green, my dad, just because he wanted to help the club and what they'd done for me. But now, obviously, Dale Vince is in charge, and they're doing this and they're doing that. It's just totally different from when I was there. But it's good to see, because I've still got good friends down there and people who support the club. And it's just a great place for me to start, I'll be honest.
How would you describe yourself as a player back then? So what were your kind of strengths?
Yeah, I quickly realised that I needed to beef up and get stronger. That was the first thing I remember going to Forest Green thinking, this conference is a tough league, and if I don't toughen up quick, if I don't get in the gym and get stronger and get quicker and get more developed, then I'm going to get pushed around. So I quickly realised that I was sort of fighting for my life really, in terms of having to battle against these experienced players who wanted to kick younger players around. And it's a tough league now, and it was a tough league back then, with a lot of sort of experienced pros. I mean, the refs sort of a bit more hot, a bit more sort of stricter now. You don't get away with as much. Whereas back then, you would be getting pulled in corners, and you would be getting nipped and knocked off the ball, and little digs, little punches in your stomach. That's what it was like when I first started. obviously going back 15, 20 years, it's changed now. You don't get that as much. People are a bit more. I mean, there's a lot more football played in the league, you know, in my opinion. But
How did you cope? How did you cope with that?
yeah, I think it helped me. It turned me into sort of, I need to be aggressive. I need to give as good as I get, because I remember one of the first games we played Altrincham and someone clattered into me, really bad tackle, and he only got a yellow card. And you know, now it would be a red card. You know, my ankle were absolutely blown up, but I was that keen to play. I played the next game. I just strapped it up and was like, I need to play. I can't afford to be injured. Like, so I was playing with a big black ankle, because I was just desperate to prove myself, desperate to, you know, get an opportunity, because this was my chance. And I thought, if I come out of the team now, then this chance might be gone. I was always like, that was always a little bit of a worry for me. I always played on a little bit of that throughout my career, that a bit of worry, someone's going to take my place, or and I don't know whether that helped me or not, but I was always that type where I need to do more than the next man to keep hold of my shirt, you know, and that. I was like more of a box-to-box midfielder, as you know. I think that's how I sort of see myself at my best.
And if we go on to kind of, I mean, I suppose everyone always asks you about Swindon because of Di Canio, but it's interesting from a Chesterfield perspective, because you played in the JPT final, didn't you, at Wembley, which was obviously against Chesterfield, which didn't turn out so well from your point of view, I suppose. But Di Canio is a bit of a controversial figure in some ways, but what was it like?
Yeah, he helped me a lot in terms of his discipline and his desire, and just his you know, everything was about football and the next training session, the next game, and he was so tactically good. He you know, I mean, he was so determined to win, and I think that helped me. He brought a bit of a mentality into me that I took throughout my career. To be honest, he was such a tough guy to please. A tough, you know, training was tough every day. We were training long hours, late hours, but at the time, it was my first year in the Football League. So for me, it was sort of, I would have done anything. I would have trained till midnight every night. I hanged off every word he said, you know, because I was like, this is my chance. And whatever, we were top of the league, you know, winning, doing well in cups, doing well in everything, winning. And it was just a great time. Although it was really tough. It was probably the longest seasons I've ever had in terms of hardly getting days off, but I didn't mind it. I was obviously a single lad in Swindon. I had my little flat, and I was just fully focused on football. It was just it was a good time. I didn't have the responsibility like I've got now. It was just myself, and you know, I did love it. It was a good time.
Yeah, and I guess you kind of slept, did you, for like 2 weeks at the end of that season?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, we won the league, and it was just sort of, end of the season was just sort of a relief, really. It was such a disappointment to lose at Wembley. You know, it gave us the drive to, you know, go win the league. But yeah, it was tough. The amount of training I put into that season, because I've never been one for. I've always been quite lucky with injuries throughout my career. Apart from one serious one I've had, I've always been quite robust, and I think I trained every single training session he put on. I didn't miss one thing through illness, suspension, anything. I was just always there. So I did. You know, that was such a, you know, it was like 2 seasons in one for me.
Yeah, and you mentioned that injury. It was a double leg break, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've still got the metal rods in my leg now. I still sort of have to manage that situation through the rest of my career. Really, I've got a metal nail near my knee. I've got a rod all the way down the middle. And then I've got a few screws at the bottom near my ankle. So it's sort of an ongoing thing, you know, to have to manage that with the training I do and the work I have to do in the gym. You know, on cold days you can feel it. You know, I feel in your leg. It's been a challenge having to manage that through the rest of my career, but I weren't going to be the one. I didn't want that to finish me, to be honest, because there was a chance that could be the end for me after that tackle, because it was such a bad break. But fortunately, you know, I managed to get it, you know, to a point where I could keep going.
But Gillingham still fancied themselves for an equaliser. From this corner, Charlie Lee headed over. But then Swindon wrapped up the win. Another fabulous goal. This time it was Jonathan Smith with the sweet finish for Paolo Di Canio's side. The manager couldn't have finished it better himself. Swindon leapfrogged Gillingham to sit 7th place in the table.
It does take a lot out of you. I mean, I'm still playing myself now, which you know, I still love the match days and stuff, but it does take it out of you.
how old do you think you'll go on till? Just until? Do you think you'll get to a point where you just think, yeah, this is the time?
Yeah, to be honest, Dave, it was going to be that in the summer. You know, I thought once I leave Chesterfield, where do I go from there? I had a plan what I wanted to do when I finish, and I thought once I get into that plan, do I have the time and motivation to go into sort of part-time football and slog it out? You know, Tuesday, Thursday nights, and Saturdays. But at the time, I didn't. But then I went and met the FC United manager, and I went and watched the game there, and I just thought, you know what, I'm fit, I'm strong, I feel good. Let's have another year of playing, you know, if I can. Just because of I was just motivated by going there, watching them and the crowds they get and stuff. So I thought, you know what, I'll give it another year. And, you know, I'm enjoying it at the minute, but I don't think I'll be the type to go on and on and on. I won't, I don't think. Just because the other things I've got going on as well, and the commitment needed even at this level, even at the level I'm at now, although it's a lower level, it's still a big commitment, you know.
Yeah. Does it still feel the same? Like as you get older, I suppose you still put in the same amount of commitment and you're still kind of looking after yourself in the same way, but I suppose it'll change, won't it, as you get older?
Yeah, I mean, on match days it's done. I still get the buzz. That's the thing. I still on a match day, like even for the last few years at Chesterfield or even before that, training was never. I'd always be there at training. I'd always give it everything, but it was never. I was never really looking forward to it. If I'm brutally honest, I weren't looking forward to coming in. I was happy when the training had finished. But come a match day, I was a different person. Match days for me, it was my life. I lived for them Saturdays, Tuesday nights, and that's why I used to sort of struggle a little bit when I come to terms with it a bit better now. But losing or if performances didn't go well, it would hurt me because it meant so much to me them days. I look forward to it. I wake up on a Saturday with a different feeling. I still do now. So while I've still got that, I think I should still keep going.
So before we get to Chesterfield, I just mentioned Luton because you played obviously a lot of games for Luton, like nearly 150 odd games for Luton. And you became a bit of a cult figure maybe there.
Yeah, Luton was a big part of my career. I loved it there. I'm still good friends. I still do a little bit of work for the manager and the chairman now when they need me to like scout a game or chat about a player or whatever. That club does mean so much to me just because of what happened there. My leg break, the promotions, you know, just I had such a good time there. It was just used to love playing at Kenilworth Road. I don't know if you've ever been there yourself, but such a good atmosphere, and just really enjoyed playing for the club. I'd have stayed there as long as I could. I'll be honest, I loved it down there, and you know, it was just the reception they gave me when I came back from my leg break, and you know how the fans have been with me since. Still get a lot of messages from fans now. It's just it's like my second team. You know, I did love it down there. It was a good time for me.
It's great, isn't it, to be like well remembered at a club, because you get a lot of players that maybe can have up to 20 clubs or something and never spend that long at any of them. But to have that association where you're really well remembered, it must be really nice.
It is, yeah, it is. I mean, I went and watched them on Saturday, and some of the fans were coming over and talking and stuff. They were playing Preston, my local team, and I didn't have a game, so it was sort of go and watch Luton Preston. Yeah, it was great. It's just it is a special club to me in terms of, you know, where they come from when I was there in the conference. You know, there was uproar, like a bit like Chesterfield when I came to Chesterfield, and I saw Chesterfield in a similar light. I'll be honest, I thought, I'll come to Chesterfield, we'll get them back up, you know, we'll get them back on the road, because it's a similar sort of, they're both big clubs, and it was like that at Luton. You know, we managed to get them out of the conference, and we were all heroes for getting them out of the conference, you know, and that is, it's a tough league, as you know yourself.
Yeah, and I suppose teams like Chesterfield now need to use Luton as an example of what you can do once it is just sometimes getting out of the National League, isn't it? And then you can kind of take the bounce from that and go anywhere. Yeah,
it's a tough league, and you've got to be able. You've got to be able to invest and get the good players, the right players in, and the ones that know the league and want to do it. And then I think I played in League 2, League 1 myself. I dare say the National League is as tough as any of them. And I think players struggle when they come down. They come down to National League, and it's tougher than they think. You know, it's so physical, and it is. There's one goes up. It's tough. It's one of them, and you're there to be shot at. We had it at Luton. You're there to be shot at every week. Same at Chesterfield. You've got that lovely ground. You're there to be shot at. People people play a different game when they come and play Chesterfield or Luton than they would when they're playing Dover or Boreham Wood. You know, people have got a different feel about it. Because I have it myself now at FC United a little bit. We get big crowds in our league. We get sort of sometimes 2,000 fans at home, which is a lot at this level. So when anyone plays FC United, it's the biggest game of the season. They come on, there's a big crowd and they've got a nice ground. It's like a cup game, so they raise the game and you're always battling against that. Whereas obviously as you get up the league, you know, it doesn't become like that then, and it becomes back to we're back where we belong.
So you came to Chesterfield. So we're talking summer of 2018, aren't we? Well, no, it was actually after that, wasn't it? Because you came on like a loan, didn't you, initially from Stevenage?
Yeah.
How did that kind of all happen?
Just got a phone call from Martin Owen out of the blue. Said, obviously, I've seen you play before. Would you like to come to Chesterfield on loan? And I just snapped his hands off straight away. I just knew that I knew all about Chesterfield, big club. I played against them in League Two. I just knew they were a good club, and I thought, you know what, Martin Owen, absolute character. I just thought, yeah, I'll go and get some games. I think it took me a few games to realise that my fitness probably wasn't up to what it should be. But once I got going, started really enjoying it, and loved playing for Martin Allen. One of the most memorable times of my career playing for Martin Allen. Just such a character, such a great football guy. Made you smile every day, motivate. He really motivated you on match days. He was such a good motivator. Tactically not amazing, but he got so much out of me. I really enjoyed playing for him. I was absolutely gutted when he left, as gutted as I've been. And I've played for a lot of clubs, and a lot of managers have left in my time. Luton, I think, had 3 or 4. Loads of times people have left for various reasons. If they're doing well, they've left, or they've just left, like Jim Harvey left because his heart attack. Loads of different things have happened, but that was his most gutted. And I think I'm 31 at the time, as most gutted and sad as I've ever been when he left, because I felt like we were on a line of sort of it coming good, the lads loved him. So when he did go, the disappointment in the lads, and we were struggling. And this is the thing, I think we'd drawn so many games. At one point we drew I think it was 10 or 11 games or something stupid in a row, when we should have probably run them all, but we were on this unbeaten run, and it just felt really close to coming good.
It's one of those, isn't it, whereby you kind of look at it two ways statistically, can't you? Say, well, we've not lost for
that
long,
what it
or you
was.
say we've not won for that long, and it's just like one loss can. Like I say, it was so close to turning wins into wins. It was just.
It was honestly, it was such a. I was so down the night when I heard he'd gone, because I thought. And so were the lads. The lads were absolutely gutted, and you don't usually get that. I'll be honest. You're in a change room, and usually if you're struggling a bit like that, lads are happy to see the back of the manager. Like, yeah, get someone else in or whatever, and not really care. But the lads generally really cared for Martin. I think you could ask any player that was there that time, they'd say, what a guy to play for. They loved him, absolutely loved him. I mean, you might get the odd one who was sort of out of favour, but in general, the lads absolutely loved him, and it was a big disappointment when he left for me, sort of. Because the day he got sacked, it was really struggling for players that day. We really short on players, injuries and suspensions. I remember Dempsey, we had 3 or 4 came in on the day, we were playing Solihull, and we were like 4 or 5 players injured. So I was just like, we are really short today, really short. We ended up losing, and then he went, and I was just gutted for him, because he was great. He was honestly a great guy to play for.
He seems like that. It shows as well with the fans that the fans all really liked him. And we're kind of really sad to see him leave, just because he seemed like a nice guy. He's kind of looked like he wore his heart on his sleeve, and you kind of got what you saw.
There's a few things. I mean, he's that old school sort of manager, which you don't see many of them around now. Everyone's going a different way now. Where, I mean, your James Rowe and your Nathan Jones are a different sort of guy who sort of dedicate everything to being that manager. Who's got all the qualifications and studied everything and. Knows everything. He was total opposite to that. He was sort of doing crazy things, man management skills. He was just such a character. But like I said, there's not many of those around anymore. You don't really see too many of those sort of fading out a little bit.
Did you the players have a bit of a chuckle about his kind of signing announcements that he used to put on the website? Because
Well, yeah, I mean that was the thing. I think if he's honest himself, a few things didn't go too well for him. I think he was a little bit. His recruitment were probably a bit wishy-washy in terms of who was he bringing in, were they the right people? Yeah, there's a few things that he'll probably admit himself he could have done a lot better with, but actually, the motivating players and get them going for a game and being a good guy, always ask how your family was, always ask how's you might be really struggling, football's doing your head in, but how's your missus, how's your kids, like how's your dad? Bring your dad in to have a chat, just a real good guy, chat to anyone, just a great guy.
I suppose it's hard to say really, but how do you think things would have gone differently if they'd have kept him on for a bit longer?
It's hard to say, isn't it? I mean, that was the one thing that I sort of thought he were a bit, his recruitment was sometimes a little bit hit and miss. Like, is he just sort of picking players up and giving them a go and seeing what happens, rather than real structure like they've probably got in place now, but the lads liked him, I'll be honest. Whether the team was good enough, I don't know. They probably let him down in some games, but the lads, I can tell you now, you could ask any player that was there at that time, the lads loved him and they still talk about him to this day, what a great guy he was.
During your time at Chesterfield, you scored a few good goals, didn't you? You scored a handful of really good goals. And I mean, I was looking at your career and you've never been massively prolific in terms of goal scoring, but you've obviously chipped in wherever you've been.
Yeah, I always like to chip in with you. Probably throughout my career, should have had a lot more, really, but I do tend to score. I've scored some absolute belters in my time. They've never usually get the tap-ins. They've always been. I have scored some good, even at my time at Luton and wherever, Forest Green, Swindon, I did score some absolute, good goals, which I'm proud to look back on. I'd have liked to have got a few more, but yeah. I did get a few good ones at Chesterfield. I enjoyed my time. I loved it at Chesterfield, no doubt about that. Absolutely loved it. And I'd love to have gone a little bit better in terms of the team. But myself, I know coming away from it, I gave absolutely everything for the time I was there. I think I trained. I think I was available for every single game that was there. Whether I got picked or not was another thing, but I absolutely give it everything.
Yeah, and definitely we saw that as well. You can tell when you've got players that have got a work ethic to go out and give it a go and give their all, and you were definitely on that list, definitely.
It was sort of. I think I played that many different positions at Chesterfield. I don't think probably Chesterfield fans saw my best, But I know when I played in midfield, I felt like that was my most comfortable position, and it's because I could show what I could do, rather than your right backs and your centre backs or wherever, which I could do a job at, but it's never been my most. And I've been a victim of that a little bit. FC United, we've had injuries, and I played centre back, I played right back. It's always been sort of, Smudge will do that, put him there, and I will, because I'll give everything. But nothing beats sort of your natural position.
Yeah, is that versatility a bit of a curse and a blessing sometimes?
Exactly that, yeah. And I think we had a tough period at Chesterfield where I would turn up to a game at 1:30 and I didn't know what position I was going to be playing, what formation I was going to be in. And that was every week. I'd turn up not really knowing. And I always used to like to think about the night before, on the day of a game, what am I going to be doing today? What sort of position? What's my job? Whereas there were a time at Chesterfield that it never happened from week to week. I just didn't know until the day of the game what was going to be going on, which obviously didn't help me or the team.
I wanted to ask you as well about pressure, because I'm reading Neville Southall's book at the moment, which is really, really good, which is kind of different to any footballer autobiography I've ever read. But he did a chapter on pressure and how you handle it, because obviously during the time at Chesterfield, it was trying to turn the club around and trying to get the form going in the right direction, and a lot of pressure coming from outside, from the fans and probably from higher in the boardroom and down to the manager. How, as one of the senior pros, did you handle pressure?
Yeah, I felt the pressure, I'll be honest, but I always felt like when I was under pressure, that's where I get the best out of myself, because I know it means something, rather than it doesn't really matter today. It always meant something. Every game at Chesterfield seemed to be a pressure game. I don't know why, but every game seemed to be me to win today, where we are, And I think it probably it probably didn't help the team. I mean, at times you might go 1-0 down, and you'd feel the pressure building up in the crowd that they're going to lose. They're going to lose again today. Let's get ready to go for them. And yeah, it wasn't nice at times. But like I said, for me, I enjoyed that bit of pressure, that bit of something on it. It means something. I think, and it always felt like that at Chesterfield, that every game means something here. Like this club needs to be turned around. It's down to us now. And there were some tough times where it didn't go right, but that's football, I suppose.
Yeah. Do you get some kind of fractious parts on the training ground when things are like that? Does it kind of spill out from some players?
It can do, yeah. And I always try and I try my best to try and keep the team together, because you always get those cliques and you get people that want to blame someone else, And I've always been honest. Like I was part of it. I was part of some Chesterfield teams that didn't do too well, and it's all right for me to sit here and go, "Yeah, I give my best. It's not my fault." But I was part of that, and I was on senior guys, and I was captain sometimes. It's not. So for me, I take some of the responsibility. But if you can get everyone owning that responsibility, that can really help. But unfortunately, you don't get that. You get people. It's a blame culture. It's not my fault. It's the midfielder's fault. They're not passing me the ball, that sort of thing. And it's difficult to get people to take the ownership. I always try to get that in myself and the team.
Did any of the boardroom and ownership kind of things that were happening in the background, did any of that ever kind of?
We once got told that it was the chairman that came in, Ashley Carson, and said that the looking to sell the club, and they told the players that, look, to be honest, we've had enough, we're going to sell the club, and that came across to the players, and that was the only time I ever remember that them really getting involved. But yeah, it was interesting times.
Reed sends it forward, Clough underneath it, Amanchi, ball finds its way through to Shaw, Smith with an effort! And that's the equaliser. That's their first effort on target.
And ask you a bit about John Sheridan, because we had the real highs of John Sheridan, obviously in that Johnston's Paint Trophy final when you were at Swindon, and during that time obviously won the league the year before with him. But then he came back and it really didn't work out second time around with him. I wonder how you kind of found it under John Sheridan.
A real struggle, I'll be honest. I thought one of the toughest times of my career, just because, like I said earlier, pointing out to, usually you do your preparation all week, you work on your tactics, you work on who's going to play where, what the jobs are, what the strengths of the opposition are, how we're going to win this game. That's always been the way that I've been brought up and to play football. Whereas under John Sheridan, he's none of that ever happened. We never really did tactics or who's going to play. It was always sort of, we used to call it team bingo. He's doing the bingo in the office to see who's going to play, because who's going to play where. I'd be driving to a game, not know if I'm going to play right wing back, right back, centre mid, defensive mid, attacking mid. And it was just sort of find out at 2 o'clock and then start trying to get your head around what. And if you've got 11 players like that, it just ends up being hope for the best, hope that it just comes off, hope the lads just pull it out of the bag. And in football these days, it's difficult to get away with that, because you can have the best players in the world, but the best team will always win. So if the team are more organised, the team know the jobs, how they're going to play, who they're playing against, what is our tactics today. So John Sheridan, there wasn't tactics, I'll be honest, there wasn't. And I think as much as he was a great football man, he was a great player, I think he just struggled with the level. He come into a struggling team and just struggled with what he had. Probably used to better players, I don't know, but it just didn't work, and it just felt a real struggle every week. It just sort of, I don't know how it's going to go today. I always turn up to games thinking we're going to win today, but we're often turning up to games thinking I don't know how it's going to go, because I don't even know if I'm playing or where I'm going to play at the moment.
That's a hell of a way to start, isn't it? To start a game day. And did you then find just yourself and other players kind of working out between you what you were going to do during a match? Because if you've got various players only just found out the position, then
I mean, to be fair to John Sheridan, his point was, look, you're all professional players. Like, it's a game of football. Let's not overcomplicate it. And fair enough. Like, I agree in some ways that, yeah, sometimes players can overcomplicate and make excuses and tactics and all this sort of stuff. But in my opinion, the way football is now, every team is well prepared. You know, you can't just sort of turn up and hope that it's going to work. I think you need the tactics because everyone else is doing it. You know, everyone else knows what Chesterfield do. I mean, they must have watched us and thought, no idea what they're trying to do. It must have been no idea, but they were seeing weaknesses and exploited them. So it was a struggle at times. I mean, sometimes it come off and we had some great results, but that was probably just the lads being motivated on the day and it just coming off rather than like what we've done all week working.
I've got to say, sometimes as a fan, you get the team sheet at like just after 2:00, and you're like, yeah, that's what it's going to be. But under a lot of the time under John Sheridan, you were like, right, who is right back?
Must have been tough. I'll be honest, it must have been tough for Chesterfield fans to at that point because they must, like you say, you don't know what team's going to turn up, and then every week or how we're going to play, or is it going to come off? And you might get the first goal and then end up winning because you got first goal and confidence and lads or whatever. But then when you don't get the first goal, confidence drops. What we doing? Everyone doing different things. Are we whacking it forward to Dents? Or are we playing for what we're doing? Do you know what I mean? It's just, at least from the Martin Allen, we did play a lot of long ball at times, but we all knew it was happening. So we all knew it's going long. Do you know what I mean? As long as you're all on the same page, then you've got a chance.
Yeah.
Here's Hollis. Plays a clever ball in. Short. Could be a dink into the box. It's a dangerous one. It's in! Chesterfield level on 90 minutes. A dinked ball into the far post. No one picked him up. And it's into the back of the net. And we're all square, and it's Jonathan Smith.
And John Pemberton, we're talking a lot about managers, but it's just really interesting. So John Pemberton, he seemed like a really decent, honest bloke. Yeah. And he kind of put you back into position, didn't he, when he came in?
Great guy, yeah. He came in, first thing he said, I'm going to put you in centre mid. And he just gave me confidence straight away. And he's a proper football guy who, you know, he knows the game. He's had a great career himself and he's a very good coach. He's one of the best, you know, he's a really good coach, puts on a great session. And the lads love playing for him because he come in and he was bubbly and we had a bit of a plan all of a sudden, and it was no coincidence then the results started picking up. I think his hands were tied a bit at the start of the next season just because he just didn't have anything to spend on anyone. Like I took a huge cut to stay at Chesterfield that year just because I enjoyed playing for him and I enjoyed playing for the club. I would have got more just playing part-time round the corner, you know, but for me, it wasn't about the money then. It was about, I want to play for a big club. And I like Pembo. He's a good guy, good manager. But his hands were absolutely tied with the budget. I mean, we were all sort of recommending players to him, but he just didn't have anything to bring in. He had no money to bring any players in. We were just really short in a lot of areas. And then obviously results started off a bit sticky. You know, a few last-minute goals that cost us. And then I think he just felt that the time was right for him to move away from it.
Yeah, and like you say, like when he came in first and kind of we pulled away from relegation that season, he kind of stopped the club from falling a bit further that would have probably happened if they'd kept Sheridan a bit longer. So he needs to take a lot of credit, doesn't he?
He does, because he stepped into a tricky job at a tricky time, and you know, he lifted the club, and yeah, he deserves a bit of credit for that because even at the start of the next season, you know, he's working on an absolute shoestring budget, you know, to try and get any sort of player in he could, you know. Like some of the wages some of the players were signing on were sort of, you get more at McDonald's. Do you know what I mean? It was that sort of thing, and he's just, I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but it was a tough job.
Yeah, and it was quite an admirable thing, wasn't it? In the end, he just decided to resign, didn't he? Which you don't get a lot in football management.
Oh yeah, I think he was taking it home with him a lot because he cared so much and he loved the club so much. he was taking it because I got to know Pembo very well, and I think that he was hurting him a lot. And the odd last minute goals, he was really taking it home with him. And I think he probably had his chat with his family and said, "Look, is this what you want? Because this is what it's like. Football is like this." And I think he probably thought deep down that actually it's better for me to move away from it and let someone else have a go, because this is probably, like I said, it mattered so much to him that it was bothering him in his family life.
How did that kind of conversation go with the players? Did you just find out from someone else, or did he kind of announce?
Yeah, we just found out from the club that he's gone, and a lot of us were really disappointed because we felt it was so early in the season and we had time to turn it round. But these things happen, and it's probably worked out for the best in the long run for the club, because whether Pembo would have been a long-term thing, I don't know, because of the way he felt when he left. But yeah, it was tough to take at the time.
Who did you really like playing with at Chesterfield? Because obviously we had a lot of players over those kind of 3 seasons. I wondered if there was anyone you felt like you had a good connection with on the pitch.
Yeah, I enjoyed playing with Big Dents just because of, even on and off the pitch, just a great guy. Great around the lads. Just even his. I mean, sometimes his style on the pitch is a bit long ball and direct, but he's actually a really good player on the ball as well. Just enjoyed playing with him because it's something different to what I'd ever seen before. David Buchanan, enjoyed playing with him. Shwan Jalal, enjoyed playing with him. Joe Yarney, enjoyed playing with him. Yeah, a lot of the lads really. I think it's hard to pick out. I don't think there's anyone I dislike playing with. Whoever I'm playing with, I'll try and give it my best, and I know more often than not that they're trying the same. And yeah, Zavon Hines was another one who don't have to get mentioned. I just think that he was a really good player. Great ability. One of the most talented players I've seen in my time. And I really enjoyed playing with him as well.
I suppose it's difficult, isn't it, when you've got different managers coming in and going out? It's hard to get like a really settled squad for a long period, isn't it, when things like that? Because managers then come in and they want to then bring in their own players, don't they? It must be difficult.
Yeah, it's tough, but that is what happens in the lower league, isn't it? There's that much change over players and managers that I suppose you have just got to get on with it,
Yeah, and kind of your latter period at Chesterfield. So obviously James Rowe came in, and then all the pandemic happened and everything as well. And it's all, it's a really odd time to be a footballer, wasn't it, during that whole pandemic?
It was, yeah, to be told there's no fans or you're at home now. It was a tricky period, and someone would get COVID and you'd be off for 2 weeks. I actually really enjoyed playing for James Rowe. I'm still in good contact with him now. Although I didn't play many games for him, I felt like he was, he's a good coach, he's a good guy, and I can just see that he wants to do really well. He's dedicated his life to it, and to be honest, I don't think I ever got a big chance under him to show. I think every game I played, we did well, we won, but I think it was sort of I never really got that full chance under him. I don't know if his mind was pre-made up, but I've never sort of fell out with him or lost respect or anything, because his remit was to come in and totally change everything, and he got money to spend to do this, that, and the other. It would have been nice for me to still be there and still play a part in what he's doing, because he's obviously doing good things. He's been allowed to bring in some top players for this level, but yeah, I think I did enjoy playing for him, and I think it was unfortunate that I didn't get to more of a chance. But I understand that's football, and I'd been there a long time. I'd been captain. I was always going to be one that probably got looked at as if, we'll maybe move him on and get, we'll try something different. Which is, like I said, it's football.
I don't know if you want to comment on it or not. You're fine if you don't want to. I can edit it out. But we had the whole furlough situation where some players got furloughed, and obviously they got plenty of flack on social media. That was all. It was all weird how that played out in the media, wasn't it? Even though it was a very, very small amount of players.
Yeah, it was like I say, it was a strange time. Nothing I'd seen before, and lads were getting pulled in the office and getting told they're going on furlough. And some lads are saying, "Well, I don't want to go on furlough. I want to stay and train." Well, you're going on furlough because you're not going to play, and let's save your money. You know what I mean? That's basically what was going on, which is it's a business decision, isn't it? For me, I never got sort of offered the furlough thing. But then towards the end of the season, I sort of had a good chat with James Rowe, and I was out of contract in the summer, and I started to realise that I weren't going to be staying. So for me, it was just about, he was fair to me. He just said, look, go and have some time with your family. You've been professional football now 17 years, done all this time without a break. Have a couple of months off now, break, and go and sort out what your next move is, because he basically told me there wasn't going to be a deal for me next year, but go and have some time now to sort yourself out. And you know what? I thank him for that, because I actually did. It gave me sort of 2-3 months to really sort out and really work out where I wanted to go in the next stage of my life, because I knew sort of once Chesterfield ends, do I want to go for a year here or a year there? I had the chance to go to sort of Yeovil or like your Weymouths, teams like that for a year's contract. And I just thought, where I'm at in my life now, I'm coming up to 35. Am I ready to go to just do a year at Yeovil just to be the sake of a footballer for another year? And I wasn't, but because I was given that time to really sort of think about this off James Rowe and the club, and that really helped me, and I know obviously the club got a lot of bad press about the furlough, but actually that time that I was given really helped me, be able to move on with my life.
Yeah, and what are the plans now? So obviously FC United of Manchester, kind of playing with them, but tell us what other stuff you're up to as well.
Yeah, I've got there's a private school near me, and they're really big on the football, and they've given me an opportunity to come in and run their football whilst doing my teacher training. So I'm doing my teacher training on the side of doing while working at the school. And then once I get this qualification, then the aim is, and the ambition is, providing it goes well on both sides, is that I'm going to be running the football program for them full time at that school, which is what, although this year is really tough because I'm doing a really hard teaching qualification, which requires a lot of effort and time, and obviously there's no salary to it. But long term, it's what I want to do. I want to be sort of in education more than I do sort of staying in football, just because you get great holidays for one. It's a lovely place to work. It's sort of, this is a really nice school where they've got great facilities, and I just enjoy being in the school environment rather than sort of plugging my way through an academy and having to move here and move there. And I just think, for me, if I can stay in football a little bit by playing a bit of part time or doing my bit of scouting for Luton, which I've been doing whilst doing this role at the school, then that is the aim.
And we've had a few players that have gone into that, like Chris Beaumont, who was part of the FA Cup semi-final team. He's a teacher now, and Glyn Hurst, who was on a few weeks ago, he's kind of combining teaching and working with Marine. So it's there's quite a few that go into that kind of route.
It's sort of, for me, after Chesterfield, I sort of I had those 2 months to really get all this into place. I was able to make the contact with the school, get onto the course I wanted to get on. Whereas if I'd have still been coming in training every day with Chesterfield and not getting picked, it still takes up a whole of your time. So driving from Preston to Chesterfield, 2 hours plus every day there and back. And then the season would have ended, and I'd have ended up probably just having to take a contract at Weymouth or something, just because I had to. Whereas that time that was given through COVID and furlough, whatever you want to call it, whatever time James Rowe gave me there, that time I used really well. I used to get this set up, and now I'm in the school where there's going to be hopefully going to be a future role for me just running a football program,
And the travel as well, not having to travel around, because it must be hard as a footballer. You've always got a contract end date, haven't you? Wherever you are.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You never quite know where you're going to end up.
Yeah, and with me having 2 kids, like I said, my old manager Darren Saul is the manager at Yeovil now. He was my manager at Stevenage. I get on with him really well, and he was really trying to persuade me to go down there and do another year at Yeovil. But when I was thinking about it, for me, it was sort of, I'm leaving my kids, my missus, to go down there. I'm gonna have to live down there. I'm gonna have to get a flat. Money's not gonna be great. When am I gonna see my kids? I'm gonna have to drive back from Yeovil to Preston for the sake of a year in the National League. And it sounds bad because I'm turning down a professional contract, but because I'd given so much to it before, I just I put things in place, and I just thought, I want to take the opportunity with the school rather than a year at Yeovil. But Yeovil might end up winning the league and I might regret it. But you know what? I had to make the decision and I did.
Yeah. So to finish off, I just wondered if you had finish off on a highlight of your time at Chesterfield. Were there any games that kind of stuck out or periods of time that you just really
I mean, the unbeaten run under Martin Allen really stood out in terms of, although there was a lot of draws, it was just a crazy time, but such an enjoyable time. Just really enjoyed that with a great group of lads. I enjoyed scoring the goals under Pemberton. When I scored a few cracking goals, especially I scored one against Wrexham. Oh no, was it Wrexham? Was it Fylde? I scored one against Fylde, I think, my left foot. And I don't get many on my left foot, and I've been practicing so much with my left foot, so that always sticks in my memory because I volleyed one in with my left foot, and that always springs to mind. But yeah, I had a great time. I still look out Chesterfield, and like I said, I'm still good friends with the manager. Still chat to him now and again, some of the boys, and I really, really do hope that they can get back into the Football League because they've got proper. It just feels like a proper club, proper fan base, and I did really enjoy my time. Although it didn't go as for me, I'd have loved to have been the person that got them back promoted to Football League. I'd have loved that to have that to my name because that was my desire when I went there. And unfortunately, we couldn't get it done. But I do hope that they can do it because, well, they will do it. They'll do it at some point, whether it's this year or the year after. They will do it because they've got the right things in place now. Good manager there who knows what he's doing, and I just think that it will happen at some point.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, you definitely it was such a turbulent time for the club, but you definitely personally, I think, come out of it with a lot of credit in terms of the way you played and the graft that we obviously saw on the pitch. So
no, I appreciate that because I mean, often people don't obviously realise, I give my life to that club for 3 years. There was never sort of thinking about anything else. It was just the next game, the next training. I give it absolutely everything I could, and maybe Chesterfield probably caught me at the back end of my career when they probably didn't see me at my amazing best. But I'd like to think that they saw me, giving everything I could on and off the pitch every time I put the shirt on.